Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today the demonstration is on plaster tape, and this is one of my favorite art mediums. It is really great to do with kids, very simple and not very messy. This is what makes it so exciting for me. What I do is we start off with some kind of an armature. And you can use foil as an armature. Here's a person here. You can see this person is kind of balancing or flying right here. Or here's another example of an animal in an armature. It's of a lion. It's kind of hard to see with this light because this foil is so shiny. This is a foil armature, and you can view a video on how to make foil armatures on my YouTube channel. I have many of the different kinds of armature videos. I have another one on how to use paper as an armature. Now, when you're making sculpture, you can actually use anything. I use sometimes boxes. I made a 6-foot sculpture one time with boxes. So anything that's pretty sturdy as an armature, and of course that you don't want. This was made in here with newspaper, the same as this one here. So you start off and you get your armature and you get your plaster tape. Now I buy my plaster tape in giant rolls. Here is a very large roll here. And I get these from art companies online. And what I do is I just cut them up, pre-do this for the kids into chunks. Depending on what we're doing. If we're doing something larger, the piece is going to be bigger. And if I'm doing smaller items, you know, you can just cut this right in half. And what plaster tape is a gauzy material that has been dipped into some kind of a plaster material, or the plaster material is applied to it, and then what we do to use it is we just simply wet it and then apply it to our armature. So let me show you how you do that. When I set it up for student use, I give them a tray with very little water in it, and I give them a little pile of plaster, just a little bit to start, because if this gets wet, what's going to happen is it's going to start hardening very quickly. That's why I prefer to use plaster tape over a paper mache. I've done paper mache in the past with the students, but it is very messy, I found. And this is less work for me, and it's also a harder surface in the end when you're done. You can see how pretty hard that is. This is actually the material that the doctors would use if you break your arm or leg. This is the cast material. And you can purchase this at craft stores, hobby stores, or like I do, I order it online because I order it in bulk. And a little bit of this actually goes a long way. I'd really actually only need a few pieces of this to cover this round circle. And if I'm doing something small, like I said, I cut it smaller. If I did a piece like this, it would just waste a lot of this. So I'm cutting this. I'm going to cut this again in a few little strips to show you how I apply it. And it is very easy. It's basically dip and pull out quick. Let it drip and apply it. And when you apply it to your armature, and you want to make sure your armature has been completed, you rub it in with your finger. And I have rubber gloves on today just because I have a class coming in a few minutes, and I do not want to have to scrub and wash my hands. I can just whip off the rubber gloves and I'm good to go, because it does get stuck in and around my fingernails. But for the kids, I do not let them use rubber gloves. And you're just rubbing this in until you don't see the texture of, you can see right here, you see the texture of the gauze. And this kind of activates it. And you can do it, and I'm kind of like petting it, just like you would pet a dog. And I'm only working up one finger, just like you're petting an animal or a dog. I'm going in one direction, and this is kind of activating the plaster and filling in the cracks of the actual plaster tape. And then dip the next piece in, making sure that all the edges are sealed down. Now I go to an area, I overlap it just a little bit. And what's really great about this, I want mine to be smooth, but what's really great about this is if you want to have it draped where you can see fabric, where it can actually be like, say you're making somebody's dress and you want to see the creases, well, what you do is you would smooth it out, and then you can make it so that it's creased and crinkling if you want texture. That's what's really cool about this, because it's very fluid right now when it is wet. And I'm rubbing it in, smoothing it out, and then you would continue building up until you finish your entire piece. What is perfect about plaster is that it dries fast. Where a paper mache can take days or weeks or even a month. I've had giant mummies that we've made out of paper mache that took a long time to dry, and it starts getting not very nice. But with this, it dries very quickly, especially if you put it out in the sun, and then it takes paint very well. You can also sand the surface of your plaster tape. I hope you have fun exploring and experimenting with plaster tape.